Hey guys, so today we're going to take a look at the Arrtx watercolor markers. So if you're interested in seeing how these markers perform, you're going to have to keep watching. So about a week ago, I got an email from Frida at Arrtx asking if I'd be interested in reviewing their watercolor markers. I responded that sure, I would definitely be interested, but that the only way I would do it is if I could give an honest review. They were fine with that, so I'm going to be doing an unbox and swatch review today, and we're going to be doing a tutorial a little bit later on in the future. This isn't quite 100% your typical unbox and swatch. The only thing we're missing though is that it came in some nondescript Amazon packaging, and the label said that it came from Lightwish. So other than that, we're about on the same page now. So inside the package was another mailer. Inside that mailer were these two items: a sweet little card. A person needs to wear two things to look great: confidence and a smile. And then it's a thank you letter. Dear valued customer, thank you for purchasing the products from our Lightwish store. Again, these were sent to me for review, so these were not purchased out of pocket. We really appreciate and value your support. Our goal is to keep our customer beyond satisfied. All of our products have been inspected strictly and packaged carefully before shipment, but there are some uncontrollable factors in shipping, transit, or dispatch. And then there's information on how we can let them know that if there is a problem. They also let us know that there is a time zone difference, but they'll do their best to quickly respond to whatever question we send in. And they ask for a response time of 24 to 48 hours. So that's pretty nice. A lot of these Chinese art supply vendors really try to go the extra step to make sure the customer service is good. And as an American customer, it makes me feel a lot more comfortable in trying these sort of supplies out when I know that if there is a problem, I can reach out to them. So we have today the package of 48 Arrtx watercolor brush markers, water-based ink, blendable with a brush tip. And they say a true brush pin, so I assume that means they're going to have individual bristles. We've looked at a few of these on this channel. And these do not have color names, they have color numbers. And something I noticed when I was prepping is you can see the color numbers on the bottom. So the pins are actually labeled. The packaging is corrugated plastic with a belly band, and there is a little lift out handle. Let's see what we get when we... Okay, it seems like the belly band is not really designed to be removed, so let's try to, all right. So neither of those seem to work. I was gonna try to just slip this out, but I think it's probably taped down. I didn't really wanna tear off the belly band, and I don't think it's designed to be torn off, but it does look like you can eventually remove it. So let's try, haha, that's how we do it. And yeah, it's got a little slip closure. So I like the box packaging. I like, this has like a matte finish on it. I like the finish on this. My only complaint is I wish I dipped down so that you could open it, unlatch it without having to remove the belly band, because I do like the belly band. And I think it makes the set look a bit classier for that. So inside we have 3 rows of pens. They are separated by plastic dividers. They're just plastic sheets. They don't go all the way down. I have a feeling once you start removing pens from each row, it can get really disorganized. So while you can keep your pens in this set, you might want to get like a pencil portfolio to hold these if you end up really liking them. Cap is on all right. It's a clear plastic cap. You can see the color of the pen from the inside because the collar and the bottom are color coded. When I shake the pen, there's something loose inside this one. Let's see. Yeah, something loose inside that one too. It might be the felt or maybe a breather tube. I'm not really sure. I'd have to take this apart. So the body screening indicates which end is the brush end. It says watercolor brush marker, Arrtx. That's all in silver. It has AWB 3001. It is color number 36. And I like that these have the color numbers on the bottom. I don't necessarily need color names. Having color families is more useful for me. I am a little disappointed it's not also screened on the body. It would just be a little easier to see. And if you were to purchase these pens, you can find them on Amazon for $31.80 with Prime shipping for the 48 color set, $19.98 for the 24 color set. And I'll make sure I dropped links in the description below for those of you who are interested in checking these out yourself. Arrtx doesn't seem to have a lot of other products currently on the Amazon marketplace, but Lightwish does also have like color pencils. And also like ringing bells, paintbrushes, drawing kits, that sort of thing. So it seems like they make kids musical instruments or maybe inexpensive musical instruments, and they're starting to make art supplies. So this set does not come with a water brush for blending. Some sets do. This set does not. So I'm going to be augmenting it with my own water brushes that I have. And we're also going to be doing our swatching today on Canson XL mixed media paper. I may also do some swatching, depending on how this goes down, on Blick Studio watercolor paper or on Strathmore watercolor paper. Both of those are cellulose watercolor papers, and they tend to play nicely with these sort of water brushes, or rather these sort of watercolor markers. And we are going to swatch and label all 48 colors today, so this could get kind of intense. These do indeed seem to have individual nylon bristles on them. And the whatever loose thing is in here doesn't really seem to be posing a problem with the ink flow. And the ink flow seems to be fairly generous. Sometimes with these kind of watercolor brush pens, the ink flow can be really anemic, just really unimpressive, difficult to keep up. And you end up with like really dry brushy, difficult to use watercolor markers, water-based markers, that sort of thing. These so far don't seem to have that problem, but I will definitely let you know if that comes up, as well as any other issues we might face. And I'm just going to do a quick blend out swatch for this one. Seems to reactivate fairly readily. These are dye-based, water-based markers. A lot of color in there. The blend transition is nice. There is a little bit of a hint where we originally put the color down. It's pretty typical for these kind of markers. I'm going to apply some to my craft sheet and pick it up with my water brush. This is an impermeable craft sheet, so I use that for these kind of palette, like as a sort of side palette quite often. Nice blend out with that as well. Let's try some wet into wet. So I'm going to apply some water down onto the paper. Decent ink flow, doesn't seem to be sucking up too much of the water. That can be another issue, is like backflow, where the pen absorbs a lot of the water that was put down. You can also kind of reverse blend. You can go from light to dark by picking up some water and then blending it out. So I bet we could pick up two colors that way. So I'm going to try blending that way. So I put down some yellow on my craft sheet, and now I've got sort of an orangey color. I'm going to run that through my yellow. Okay, yellow wasn't quite as impressive as I'd hoped. Let's actually do the reverse. Let's put down that orangey color. And then we'll try picking it up and blending out with the yellow. Okay, it works a little bit better. We get a nice peachy orange to yellow. So these could be good for brush lettering, brush calligraphy. Could be good for stampers. I'm going to review this for the most part today as a watercolor artist who's looked at a lot of watercolor brush pens. So I'm going to clean off my surface, and we are going to do just straight color swatches of these. Oh, Before I forget, I want to do one more thing. I happen to have a couple of blender markers over here. I have a Zig water-based blender marker, and I have an Ecoline blender marker. So I'm gonna try putting some down on the paper. We're gonna blend with the Ecoline. Works decently well. Then we're going to blend with the Zig blender. It's a little stiffer, so it's going to be a little scrubbier. Doesn't blend quite as nice as the Ecoline, can still blend. I would bet any kind of water-based blender like this, the Ecoline or the Sakura Koi blender or a Tombow ABT blender, I bet all of those would work with these. Let's try picking some up from our craft surface. That also works. Pick up some of that orange. We're going to end up with a weird color. That also works. So you have a variety of ways that you can blend these colors. So we're going to do the swatching in time lapse. I'm going to take notes as I do it, and then I'll come back to you guys with any notes that I might have. right, now that I've done my initial swatching, I have some thoughts about these markers. So they have nylon bristles, they have no clips on the caps, they're fairly lightweight, there's a decent amount of juice inside. I think black was the only one that was a little bit dry, the rest had plenty of juice. Some of my caps had liquid on the inside, but I think that was from changes in the barometric pressure outside. The weather has been kind of vacillating wildly here in Nashville, so it probably happened after it left their factory. It's something that can also happen if you like airship packages, you send packages by air, the changes in altitude can cause that. So it's not really a factory defect, it's just something that happens in shipping. The individual layers, okay, so really all my big problems with these markers come from the case, not the markers themselves. I actually like the markers. They're quite fine, they perform well, they perform like other markers in their category, except possibly a little less expensive. So the individual layers, there's 3 layers, 3 tiers in here. They buckle when enough markers go missing, and it only takes about 3 for it to start to buckle. The case can't stand on its own, like I can't get it, well, balanced. Of course it balanced then. It balanced at the end when I don't need it to balance, but I tried several times to get it to stand on its end, and it doesn't turn into an easel. So really the only way to have it out and open was on its side where the layers will collapse in on themselves. This was really a problem when I'd removed the third row for swatching because of course that entire layer collapsed. So if the whole row is out, it's really difficult to reorganize the markers because they just kind of all bunch up together to take up that additional room. So with this type of case, with this many markers, it's a bit, with this type of case and with this many markers, it's a bit frustrating to use. So if there are plastic spacers like at the bottom of the container that held the markers in place, like I think the Crayola 100 pack of Super Tips has, it'd be a lot easier to get markers in and out without adding too much additional cost. I think I have some pencil portfolios in storage that are large enough to hold all these. And for me, that would be a lot easier for me to use these and continue these swatching. So I'm going to go dig for that. And if I have one, I'll switch it out. If not, I will continue from here. But really, my big problem so far is just in the packaging. And some people just throw the packaging away. I do indeed have just such a case. It used to hold my Inktense watercolor pencils, and then my collection grew way too big for this case. But it is a 48 marker case from Global Arts, so I'm going to go ahead and transfer these markers into this case for my own ease of use. I'm going to try to roughly divide my markers up into color families, and that way this will be a more sustainable way for me to continue to use these markers, and it'll be a little bit more sustainable for when I do my tutorials. But hey, now we have them all spread out in their beautiful rainbow glory. So my solution didn't quite work. It's just not big enough to hold all 48 markers. You can only really get 3 in a slot, and this case here kind of assumes you're using pencils. But you guys get the general idea. I'll probably end up putting it back in the Arrtx case after I finish, since it wasn't such a good fit. So next, we're going to do 2 other types of swatches. We're going to swatch with water, and we're going to swatch with the blender pen. And I don't really need to talk you guys through this, I don't believe, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started with that. So as I was swatching these 48 colors, I had a few thoughts. So I think the colors are really nice and clean, and they're all fairly vibrant. They're all very vibrant, actually, not fairly, but very vibrant, which for some creators, that can be a little bit harder to use, but for others, this is exactly what they're looking for. There's no loose bristles, like none. In all the 48 markers that I tested, there were no loose bristles. And this is a big change because a while back, like a couple years ago, I reviewed a Mozart set of very similar markers, and I liked those, except the bristles were just falling out all over the place. So these are higher quality than those. I really love how these react to the water. If you get them while they're still wet, there's like a clean blend out for all of these colors. And this isn't watercolor paper, this is mixed media paper. So I'm sure on a watercolor paper, like a cellulose-based watercolor paper that could kind of hold on to the color a little bit longer, these would be even more blendy. I'm gonna let this one dry, and then we're gonna try swatching that one out, but I'm gonna continue to talk. So again, lovely, bright, clean colors would be really, really nice for like floral painting. In fact, I think these would be really nice for loose floral paintings, the sort that are really popular right now. Of course, it goes without saying, these would also probably be really good for brush letters, particularly for those who are on a budget and they want a lot of really nice colors. And I feel like I could do a rainbow road with these very easily. My only qualm, again, about that is I haven't found a good containment solution for them yet. This box, there's no point in me organizing them by color in this box because they're not going to stay in place. This current design is not good for 48 colors, and my solution doesn't hold all my colors, and it's really annoying getting my colors back in. I really struggled. It was really a tight fit. So I need to find a better solution before I would be confident in doing a rainbow road. And I do think that keeping them organized is important because while they are fairly close to the color on the caps, it's a decent match. These sort of plastic color caps are never 100% accurate, and I like to know what I'm getting, especially with skin tones. Some of the skin tones are not quite the color, although again, I think all the browns in this set and the skin tones are fairly nice and they blend out nice. Often with dye-based markers, you can get the composite colors, like it does color chromatography when you add water and they separate out. Whatever they're using stays true even when you blend it out, which I like. So again, the color selection is nice, but I want a container that helps keep them organized. And also, because these are dye-based, they're probably not going to be particularly light fast. So that is something you're going to want to keep in mind. This is not for archival work necessarily. So this has had a chance to dry a bit. I'm going to take the water and try to swatch it out. Okay, so when you let it dry for a while, you do get this kind of ghosting over here where it doesn't blend out as nicely as these. So for best blending results, you want to work while the color is fresh. You don't want to come back to it later. So I'm going to let these dry, and then we're going to try swatching out with the Ecoline blender. So I don't like these brush pens quite as much using a blender marker, but that's not really unique to these brush pens. That's something I typically feel when I'm using watercolor markers, watercolor brush pens. I feel like I felt that way even with the Eco line watercolor markers. So this is not really my preferred method. I like the method where we blend out using the water brush. I'm going to demonstrate some more blending methods here. So we're going to start with this nice pink. And I'm going to pick it up with this bright, vibrant green. So the blend time on these is fairly short. You can do color to color blending, but it's not quite as clean a transition as picking it up from another surface. Let's try doing tip to tip blending. That might be a little bit difficult with these just because they're smaller. Yeah, that's not quite as clean a transition as picking it up from a non-porous surface. I'm gonna try picking it up with the Eco line and blending on top. You can do some layering like that, and it doesn't seem to really reactivate the prior layer too much. I'm gonna try the same thing with water, which will probably reactivate the prior layer. A little bit, not too bad though. If you were to do multiple layers like this, I feel like it would turn to mud. But I think if you're just doing a couple layers like this, you can get away with it. What's nice about these nylon bristles is that they don't tear up the paper. So you can kind of work back and forth between colors like we're doing with these two greens here. What's also nice is that put down enough liquid that you have a nice longer open time than with some other markers I've reviewed here on this channel. So you can get a pretty decent transition blend. Let's do that with some pinks now. So we've got our 3 hot pinks. These are not refillable and you can't buy them open stock. So as colors run out, that's just kind of what it is. What you could do is you could use this to start your collection and then buy colors from, you know, other brands that do offer open stock colors. The pinks don't seem to blend as nicely as the greens did. When you add a lighter color on top, it will pick up a prior color. So you can do a little bit of lifting like that. Going to apply a medium pink. I'm going to let it dry. Then I'm going to go over it with our lighter pink and our darker pink. All right, it's had a chance to dry. I'm going to try blending and lifting out with the lighter pink. So it seems like it's still reactive even after you've given it a chance to dry. So you're going to want to keep your number of layers fairly limited. But this can be really useful for smooth blending. Let's do this with something that's going to be a little bit more noticeable. I'm going to grab blue. And I'm going to give that blue a chance to dry. Then we're going to go over it with a very light green and with one of our pinks. All right, so that's had a chance to dry. We can get some layering, but as I said, if you blend it out, you are going to get a bit of a transition blend because it does reactivate that prior layer. But this can be a really cool way to get blended colors. It's also encouragement to keep your work light, and I would say less is more. Don't try to overwork your work, which is a cautionary tale for me. That's something I really struggle with not doing. Then messing around with some of the skin tones. Out of the gate, this peach color is a little bit too intense for most Caucasian or lighter skin tones. It's just a little too warm. So I have it blended out. And then we're going to try with the blender marker as well. This would give you a more controlled blend. But I've noticed with blender markers, you kind of hit a threshold for how many layers you can do. So we're gonna give this a chance to dry, and then we're gonna go over it with another layer. So that's had a bit of a chance to dry. Gonna go back over it as though we were kind of shading skin and blending it out. And then over here on the area we've already blended. And once that has dried, I'm going to use one of the pinks to sort of do a faux blush. And then we're going to use a light violet as sort of a shadow color, just to sort of simulate painting skin. All right, so we've got our pink. Again, I'm going to blend that out. See if I can blend the two together. Seems like, as long as we're working in kind of limited layers, that handles all right. Same thing over here. Ah, see, okay, now it's started to reactivate that prior layer, and we're starting to get kind of a bloom effect. Whereas over here, we're starting to really tear up the paper by using a blender like this. So both blending methods sort of have their own unique downfalls. Another way, though, that we could add this color over, say, a skin tone is to apply it to a non-porous surface and either pick it up with the skin tone we used and apply it like that, and then we get a nice transition blend. But of course, that requires kind of changing how you think about applying color. Or we could do this and then apply it with a water brush, but again, it might reactivate over there. So this might be the best method if you can remember to do it. It's not quite the purple we're looking for. We want kind of a, I don't know if there's going to be anything exactly like what we're looking for. I guess this is close enough. So this would be a color I would typically use for lighter skin tones to sort of shade. But as you can see, it's pretty intense. So what I would normally do is I would normally pick it up with water or a blender brush and apply it like this. And that seems to be okay. Let's try with the blender brush. All right, yeah, still kind of tearing up the paper over there. However, we can also do that color into color method. So we can put down, oh, it's not the color I want to put down. We can put down our mauve color, pick it up with our skin tone, and then apply and blend out. And that gives us a much smoother transition. All right, so I think I'm going to skip doing the rainbow road for this set, only because I don't currently have a really good way to organize these markers and keep them organized. And when I do a rainbow road swatch, I really need to keep my colors in place. However, I'll start one at least, since I know that is a blend that some people are very interested in. They want to see how smooth a blend you can get for the whole thing. I'm gonna skip the skin tones as well because I'm kind of lazy. Alright, so I think that just about wraps up our unbox and swatch review of the Arrtx watercolor brush markers This is the 48 color set. It does not come with a blender marker or a water brush, just these markers. These are nylon tipped watercolor markers. This means they are dye-based markers that are water reactive. They will blend with one another. And the fact that they have the individual nylon bristles in the tip means that they're less likely to damage the papers that you use. So these could be a good pick if you enjoy doing adult coloring books. These also seem like they might be a good pick if you enjoy doing brush lettering or brush calligraphy, because they come in some really nice, vibrant colors and they blend together decently well. My downsides with these is the box. The box makes it really hard to keep them sorted and organized once you have them in color families, and that seems to be the most useful way to use these. Even if you can kind of like maintain an approximation of your color families, some colors look so similar but swatch slightly differently. You really do want to be able to keep them in order. So I really am not a fan of this box, and I'd really like to see Arrtx find another solution for these watercolor markers. I would like to thank Arrtx and Lightwish for sending me the 48 color set to review. If you are interested in buying your own, it is $31.80 on Amazon Prime, so it's a little less than $1 a marker. These perform very similarly to other markers like these. They perform similarly to the Acacia Sai. They perform similarly to the Zig Clean Color Real Brush, but they are a little bit less expensive. You can't buy them open stock. They are only available from Arrtx in the 24 and 48 color sets. The caps do not come with a clip. You can tell the color of the brush from the color and from the post. And the name of the brush is not screened on the name of the color or the color number is not screened on the barrel itself. It is printed on the back though. I would like to see the color number or a color name screened on the barrel just so that it's easier to quickly find the colors that you're looking for. I would also like to see Arrtx consider including a water brush or a blender brush, just because I know that a lot of other companies that offer these sort of brush tip markers offer that as well. So I have a couple of tutorials. Actually, as I was playing with these, as I was swatching these, as I was demonstrating these, I really started to have a lot of ideas for tutorials and demonstrations that I would like to do. I did promise Arrtx that I would do one, but I kind of want to do many. So I hope you guys will look forward to those in the near future. It would be techniques that are applicable to all sorts of water-based water brush pens. So even if you don't own these particular brush pens, they should be useful for you. However, I think that any of these nylon tipped watercolor brush pens, especially at this price point, the price point that Arrtx is offering, I think any of these are a good alternative to alcohol markers, particularly for people who are sensitive to the fumes, who don't want to work with toxic markers, or perhaps you're buying nice art supplies for a younger artist. You don't want to buy your teenager alcohol markers because of the fumes. These might be a good alternative because they're gentle on the paper surface, so they're not going to tear up the paper surface the way, say, Crayola Super Tips might. You can blend them, and there's some really beautiful colors in this set. So again, I want to thank Arrtx for sending me these to review. While this isn't 100% a sponsored review, it is a care of review, so I do want to be very clear about that and disclose that since I know you guys trust me and my opinions. Anyway, I hope to see you guys again really soon. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful, useful, and informative. Let me know in the questions down below if you guys have any. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. And if you're looking for more watercolor content, be it watercolor markers or watercolors in pans, in tubes, in cakes, stick around. I do a lot of watercolor unboxings, a lot of unboxing swatches, and a lot of tutorials here on this channel revolving around watercolor. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you guys again really soon. Bye, guys.